What up, y'all? This is Tracy from Nerd Squish, and today we'll be talking about how two of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights this year are connected to a little town called Carey, Ohio. If you're new here, this is Nerd Squish, where we take everything we're nerdy about, pop culture, Halloween, and we squish it together. On this channel, we've been going over all the announcements and updates that Halloween Horror Nights has been throwing our way this year. Last week, we had a video that went over all the announcements that Universal dropped on us, which was a lot. It was a lot. And we really didn't get to go in detail on a lot of these houses. So I want to take the opportunity to focus on two of the houses this year, being Welcome to Scary, Horror in the Heartland, and Case Files Unearthed, Legendary Truth, and how these two houses are connected. So if you're interested in Halloween Horror Nights, seeing the announcements, diving in deep, and then obviously seeing our vlogs and countdowns and all this stuff once we get to the parks, definitely hit that subscribe button so that way you can see our future HHN videos. With this year being the 30th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights, many of the fan favorite stories and characters will be returning to the event this year. I know there's a lot of people that, like me, are very new to this event. We haven't had the privilege or the knowledge to even know that this was going on, to have been going for years. And for those of you that have had the chance to do that, my God, am I jealous of you. Anytime I get jealous of another state and cool things that they do, I just remind myself that, you know, we're in New Orleans and I can drink pretty much wherever I want, whenever I want, and somehow that doesn't make me feel better. But it does make me drink. Although you can enjoy these original houses perfectly fine without knowing the backstory, I thought it would be interesting to take a deep dive into the history and see how these two houses are connected. So first and foremost, many of Halloween Horror Nights' scare zones and haunted houses take place in a little town called Carey, Ohio. Although the scary stories and legends that take place in these haunted houses are fictional, there is a real-life Carey, Ohio. It is located in Wyandotte County and is the hometown of one of the creators of Halloween Horror Nights. We're gonna pause for a second before we really get into the details and the juicy bits of all of this history. I'm not gonna fully flesh out this whole thing because there's 30 years of this and it's a lot. And not only is it a lot of information, not all of it is necessarily needed for the two houses that we're talking about. So we're gonna kind of focus on the basic start of Carey, Ohio, and then dealing with these two houses. Another thing is, because I am a newbie myself and I've only been in 2017 and 2019, I don't really know every little detail in the world about it. And I've only experienced one haunted house that took place within Carey, Ohio, which was the Hive, which was in 2017. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it. The 12th annual Halloween Horror Nights introduced a brand new icon, the Caretaker, and he is where our lore begins. Also known as Dr. Albert Kane, a well-respected surgeon who became the caretaker of Shady Oaks Cemetery, which is located in Willamette Valley, which just so happens to be in Carey, Ohio, in Wyandotte County. This makes him the first character to come from Carey, Ohio. I won't give too many details about the Caretaker because we could make an entire video just on him, but just to give you a little background on this dude, because he's wild, he was doing experiments on people in his mortuary. Some of these experiments took place on recently dead bodies. Some of them were homeless people that he kind of lured into his home. And when the town found out about this, and obviously that a lot of their relatives and friends were victims to this, they burned that mother down. Yeah, they burned the whole thing. The house burned down because they thought he was inside, so they're like, we're just gonna burn him down, and then he's gone. And joke's on them, he wasn't gone. That is what set up a house that year called the Scream House, where you go through his burned down mortuary and encounter him as well as his victims, and so on and so on. It wasn't until 2008 when we first heard the name Carey, Ohio mentioned in the event. One of the scare zones, which this is a scare zone that people rave about, they love it, which apparently this whole year, 2008, was just like the year to go. So, you know, maybe if I get a DeLorean and I could travel back in time, go to 2008, Universal, Halloween Horror Nights, where you at? The Scare Zone, titled The Skoolhouse, featured a school that was in Carey, Ohio, and it showcased the students in Mr. Renshaw's class and their deadly version of Trick or Treat. What really made 2008 a great year, as well as our huge connection with Carey, Ohio, and these houses and all this jazz, is the icon herself, Bloody Mary, also known as Dr. Mary Agana. When Mary Agana's mother passes away, she receives a bunch of family heirlooms left to her by her grandmother, who just so happened to be a school teacher at the same school as Mr. Renshaw that was located in Carey, Ohio. Mary's grandmother was murdered as a result of a Halloween prank gone wrong at the school. But the weird thing is, her body was never found, so she was technically classified as a missing person. It's believed that these family heirlooms that she was passed down were possessed with the spirit of her dead grandmother, and it slowly possessed Dr. Mary Agana over time. Now, Dr. Mary Agana was rejected for funding for this immersive therapy program that she was working on to cure people of their fears and phobias. And, well, you could probably guess why this woman was rejected, because she was just doing wild stuff, and as a result, many of her patients went missing. Y'all know what missing means, right? They gone, they dead. Bye. One in particular, Charlie McPherson, was a freelance photographer, and he was getting cured for claustrophobia, as well as, like, he would take pictures and he would see these strange things in the images that no one else saw. And her way to cure his claustrophobia, which this was hard for me to read, she put him in like an airtight coffin and he basically suffocated to death, which I'm uncomfortable just like reading about it and talking about it as a person that has slight claustrophobia. So after a lot of these patients begin to disappear, a private investigator named Boris Schuster opens an investigation on Dr. Agana and her facility. On the night that he makes an appointment to discover the truth, she gets murdered. And naturally her body is not found, much like her grandmother. Again, we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of Bloody Mary and her lore, because it's a lot, and a lot of it isn't even with her houses. It goes back to a lot of the interactive things that they used to have on the websites with her journals and all this stuff. But basically, she was being possessed by these heirlooms, and there was this whole thing with the mirror, and the woman was nuts. She's Bloody Mary. I mean, y'all know Bloody Mary be wild, you know, we were all kids and they're Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, you know, doing some, and we'd scream and like nothing happened, and it was, you know, hey, it's good times. Boris Schuster, because he happened to be there the night that Mary died, he was at first suspected as her murderer. Later on, his name was cleared, as it was an ex-con that worked at her facility that did in fact murder her. After Dr. Mary Agana's death, Boris Schuster creates a paranormal investigation team called Legendary Truth, the Collective, and they continue investigating her and her facility and what really happened. Legendary Truth has a lot of lore, most of it really being interactive stuff with fans and at the parks, not so much with the houses, which is super interesting, and it makes me wonder why they don't do stuff like that anymore. Like I said, I've only been 2 years. I never got to experience anything like that. And I think it'd be really cool if they brought some of that back to the event. However, Legendary Truth did get a house. In 2010, they had a house called Legendary Truth, the Wyandotte Estate. And this house, again, I say this about everything, but this was a hyped up house. I have heard that this house had the best special effects. It was tight. It was tight. And I'm sad, again, DeLorean, going back to 2010, and I'm visiting this house because it just sounds amazing. Now, Wyandotte Estate, does that sound familiar? Wyandotte County is the county that Carey, Ohio is located in. So the Wyandotte Estate was this big old mansion built in the 1920s by this guy, Malcolm Wyandotte, and his wife. And One night he just murdered his wife, 13 guests, and then eventually himself. Because, you know, I don't know, bad dinner party, I guess? Who knows? And as a result, the house was hella haunted. In this house, the collective, or the spirit seekers, as they're sometimes called, basically broadcast a live ghost hunting experience, and they get more than they bargained for with a little violence and some ghosties. So, we're coming back to how these two new houses, Welcome to Scary and Legendary Truth, are connected. We get another Legendary Truth house. This one is called Case Files Unearthed, and from what it sounds like, we are going to be walking in the shoes of Boris Schuster as he goes through New York and is fighting the paranormal and the supernatural, and he's solving cases. This is cool because Boris Schuster is the one that started it all. He started Legendary Truth. He's why we're solving the supernatural. So this is going to be really, really cool, especially because if it all goes in the timeline, this dude's from the 50s. And if you look at the picture that they have for the house, it's very like film noir and like, I don't know, all that like private investigator, like the typical, stereotypical stuff you see with all that. So I'm very, very excited for this. Now, Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland. It sounds like it's going to be basically a clip show of the best and previous things that we've seen in Carey, Ohio. You know, maybe we're gonna see vampires from the Hive. Maybe we're gonna see Meets and Leave It to Cleaver and HR Blood and Guts. I mean, there are so many cool things that we're gonna see in this house. So to summarize how these two houses are connected is that we've got Carey, Ohio, which is basically like the hellmouth of Halloween Horror Nights. And we have these paranormal investigators who happen to be investigating a lot in Carey, Ohio. So it's like the Scooby Gang in Sunnydale, but like Halloween Horror Nights. Let me know in the comments down below if you are excited about Carey, Ohio, and which Carey, Ohio houses and scare zones you've experienced. Overall, I am very, very excited about these two houses and to finally experience Carey, Ohio and its spookiness. I think I'm definitely more excited about the Legendary Truth house just because, like, you know, I'm a fan of like Supernatural and friggin' Zach Beggings and Buffy. And so like that's very much up my alley. At the same time, Welcome to Scary is gonna be really cool since I haven't experienced these houses individually. I just get the best of the best, little scenes of each one, which that's pretty cool. Let me know in the comments down below which one you are more excited about. If you guys want to stick around, I'll be doing more videos about history and lore that you might need to know before you do your trip this year, such as Eddie or the Terror Queen. So definitely hit that subscribe button and the bell notification button. That way you can be alerted when these videos are up. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you nerds in the fog.